The Dagger of Mortis sang through the air, its crystalline blade refracting impossible colors in a realm where time held no dominion. Anakin Skywalker moved with absolute certainty. The sun, twisted embodiment of the dark side, had no time to react as the blade pierced his chest. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The sun's golden eyes widened with terrible understanding. He had foreseen countless futures, but this singular moment existed in none of them. Impossible! The father was meant to. You weren't supposed to. The father materialized beside them, his ancient face contorted with horror. Not at his son's death, but at the timing. Skywalker, what have you done? Anakin twisted the blade. The sun collapsed, dissolving into crimson streamers that spiraled upward. But those shadows didn't dissipate. They converged back toward the dagger, seeping into the crystalline blade like water into sand. The daughter's dying light, still flickering where she'd sacrificed herself, suddenly flared brilliant white. It reached out, desperate, and met the sun's darkness halfway. The collision happened inside the dagger, inside Anakin. He screamed. The weapon fused to his hand, burning without heat, freezing without cold. Through the Force, Anakin felt something fundamental tear and reform. Dark and light, sister and brother, two halves of cosmic balance compressed into mortal flesh never meant to contain them. When the light faded, the dagger fell to the ground, its crystalline surface flickering with pulses of red and white energy, inert to anyone watching, but alive to Anakin. The father knelt beside his son's fading essence and turned to Anakin with eyes full of terrible knowledge. The balance. You've broken it too soon. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka stood watching the father cradle empty air where the sun had been. The balance of Mortis, the cosmic fulcrum holding back chaos, teetered on collapse. Around them, impossible architecture cracked and fragmented. The father rose slowly, carrying the weight of eons. He looked at Anakin with genuine fear, gesturing at the dagger lying between them, its crystalline surface pulsing with energies that shouldn't coexist. I thought the chosen one would bring balance through choice, through understanding, not through theft of power you cannot comprehend. Anakin's hand tingled where the blade had touched him, a sensation deeper than flesh, reaching into his very connection to the Force. I did what needed to be done. The sun was going to escape, to destroy. You did what the dark inside you wanted. My daughter's sacrifice brought you clarity, not permission to become what you feared. Anakin could feel something moving beneath his thoughts, whispers in an ancient language, fragments of futures flickering too quickly to grasp. The father's form began to shimmer, his connection to Mortis severing. His voice grew fainter as he explained the dagger was bonded to Anakin now, containing fragments of both his children, dark and light, untempered by wisdom. It would show visions, futures that might be, but wouldn't distinguish between fear and desire. The blade would appear inert to others. They couldn't destroy it or take it from him. It was his now, a reflection of his true nature. The father's sad smile was the last thing to vanish. Anakin picked up the dagger, cold, lifeless, just a strange artifact. He slipped it into his belt, ignoring the pulse against his hip as Obi-Wan shouted for them to leave before Mortis collapsed completely. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you're enjoying this content so far, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch these videos without subscribing. Imagine what we could accomplish if everyone subscribed. We thank you all for your continued support. The Twilight materialized back into real space with a shudder. One moment, the cosmic impossibility of Mortis. The next, the familiar darkness of the Corelithium system, their cruiser resolute hanging exactly where they'd left it. No time had passed. Not a single second. Rex was mid-sentence on comms, noting their signal had flickered momentarily. In the co-pilot's seat, Ahsoka watched her master. Something was different. Something she couldn't name, like a shadow that didn't match its source. Anakin, perhaps we should report what happened on Mortis to the Council. Report what, Master? That we visited a mythical realm where I stabbed a god? They'll think we've lost our minds. They'd be right to. The twilight settled into the hangar. Anakin unclipped the dagger and studied it under harsh lights. Just a blade. Ornate. Its crystalline surface caught light strangely, shifting between crimson and white. But inert. Powerless to anyone watching. He clipped it back and tried to forget. That night, in his quarters, Anakin tried to sleep. The dagger sat on his desk, gleaming softly. The dreams began. Not dreams. Visions. Futures crashing over him like waves. Padme dying in childbirth. Chancellor Palpatine. No, Darth Sidious, wreathed in lightning. Ahsoka falling. Then the vision shifted. Padme alive, gray-haired, laughing. The Chancellor burning. Ahsoka ascendant, glowing like the daughter. Himself crowned. worshipped, feared. Each vision felt equally real, equally possible. Anakin woke screaming. Obi-Wan found him at 0300 hours in the training room, lightsaber blazing, cutting through droids with un-Jedi fury. The dagger sat nearby, watching, always watching. The visions didn't stop. 3 days after leaving Mortis, Anakin stood in a briefing room aboard the Resolute, barely able to focus. Behind Admiral Yularen, translucent as a ghost, he saw another version, older, grayer, wearing an Imperial uniform that didn't exist yet. He blinked. The vision vanished, but the dagger's pulse confirmed it had been real. One possible future among thousands. General Skywalker? Sir, did you hear the question about the Separatist fleet near Ryloth? Ahsoka touched his arm gently as they left, her concern evident. She noted he looked terrible, asked when he'd slept last. When Anakin deflected, she called him a liar with familiar affection. Master, is this about Mortis? About what happened there? How could he explain? Every time he closed his eyes, he saw a dozen different futures. He'd watched her die 7 different ways, watched Padme perish in childbirth, watched the galaxy burn. But he'd also seen her alive, seen Padme safe, seen peace spreading across the stars. The problem wasn't the visions, it was determining which future was real, which path led where, which choices would save everyone. The dagger offered no guidance, only endless possibilities. That night, alone, Anakin lifted the blade and stared into its crystalline depths. For just a moment, he saw faces moving inside. The son's cruel smile, the daughter's sorrowful eyes, the father's warning gaze. The weapon pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. What do you want from me? The dagger remained silent, but in the Force, something ancient stirred and smiled. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, in a shadowed office overlooking the Senate, Chancellor Palpatine's eyes snapped open. He'd been meditating, sifting through the Force for advantages. Then he felt it, a wound in reality itself, carried in Anakin's signature. For the first time in decades, Darth Sidious felt genuine fear. Chancellor Palpatine wore his most grandfatherly smile as Anakin entered. Tea prepared, chair positioned perfectly, every element calibrated to put the young Jedi at ease. But behind those kindly eyes, Sidious was screaming. The wound Anakin carried was unmistakable, a ragged tear pulsing with both light and dark in impossible ways. It reminded Sidious of ancient texts about places predating the Sith, realms where the Force took physical forms. Mortis, the legendary realm ancient Sith tried to reach for centuries. My boy, you look troubled. Tell me, have you experienced something unusual lately? Strange dreams, perhaps? Anakin's eyes flicked up sharply. His hand moved unconsciously to the crystalline dagger at his belt. An object radiating power so intense it made Sidious's carefully laid plan feel terrifyingly fragile. Why do you ask, Chancellor? The conversation continued with banal pleasantries about the war, about Padme, about leadership's burdens. But beneath it all, Sidious probed with invisible tendrils of dark side power, trying to understand what Anakin had become. The dagger blocked him. Actually blocked his Sith sorcery like a wall of crystalline Force energy that refused to bend to techniques perfected over 8 decades. After Anakin left, Palpatine sat alone, staring at his trembling hands. For decades, he'd manipulated Anakin toward darkness, toward becoming Darth Vader. Every nightmare about Padme dying, those had been his doing, seeds planted to cultivate fear and anger. But now Anakin carried something that could kill a god. The sun had been pure dark side power, immortal, and that dagger had slain him like snuffing a candle. What would it do to a Sith Lord, however powerful? Sidious pulled out a hidden comlink. Lord Tyrannus, we need to discuss Skywalker. I have a new mission for you, one requiring extreme caution. On the other end, Count Dooku smiled with predatory interest. Master Yoda's ears twitched as Anakin entered the council chamber. Beside him, Mace Windu's expression was carved from stone, his hand near his lightsaber. Plo Koon leaned forward, respirator hissing, eyes fixed on the crystalline dagger pulsing with energies the entire council could feel. Yoda explained they'd called him for a grave reason. A disturbance centered on Anakin had grown too powerful to ignore. The other masters shifted uncomfortably, all sensing the wound that shouldn't exist. We can all feel it, Skywalker. A wound in the Force that pulses with impossible power. Show us the blade. For a moment, Anakin's hand moved protectively to the dagger. Then he forced himself to relax and drew the weapon. The council chamber reacted instantly. The Force recoiled. Light fixtures flickered. Shadows grew darker, reaching across the floor. The blade began to glow, pulsing in rhythm with Anakin's heartbeat. Translucent images formed in the air, terrible visions visible to all. Anakin kneeling before yellow-eyed Palpatine, Anakin igniting his lightsaber in the temple, younglings backing away, Anakin choking Padme, rage twisting his features, Anakin burning on Mustafar, screaming. Then the images shifted. Anakin striking down Palpatine, Anakin crowned in light and shadow, Anakin standing over a broken galaxy, billions bowing. The visions faded. Stunned silence. The darkness within you revealed it has been, but also the light. Balanced on a knife's edge you are, young Skywalker. Mace added that the visions showed power beyond Sith or Jedi. Not balance, but dominion. Anakin protested, insisting they don't understand, that he could see futures, that he just needed to figure out which path saved Padme, saved everyone. The council debated. Finally, Mace spoke. They were asking him to surrender the blade, to undergo purification at Jedya's temple, to cleanse himself before mortis consumed him. And if I refuse? The heavy silence carried implications of what the order might do. Anakin walked out, feeling every master's eyes burning into his back. Behind him, he heard Yoda's whispered lament that they may have already lost him. Count Dooku's private library on Sereno contained texts even Sidious didn't know existed. Holocrons from the old Sith temple, fragments of Jedi philosophy, warnings in languages dead for 10 millennia. In a crumbling manuscript by a mad Sith priestess, he found it, the Dagger of Mortis. The text described a weapon forged from the wellspring of life, a blade binding wielder to eternal balance. He who slays a god, the priestess wrote in frenzied script, inherits their dominion. The ancient Sith tried to reach Mortis for centuries, believing controlling the Ones would grant ultimate power over the Force. Pieces fell into place. Before the Rule of Two, before Bane's Reformation, ancient Sith empires were ruled by Force wielders claiming divinity. They'd used artifacts of immense power. With the Dagger of Mortis, Dooku could bypass 1,000 years of Sith tradition. He wouldn't need Sidious's promised power. He could become a god, worshipped as the god kings of old. He activated his holotransmitter, contacted Asajj Ventress. Her bald head tilted with predatory curiosity, clearly surprised by this unexpected communication. She reminded him coldly their partnership had ended when he tried to have her killed. I'm offering one final opportunity, my dear. Help me capture Anakin Skywalker alive, and I'll share power beyond your wildest imaginations. You want to capture the Republic's greatest hero? That's suicide, Count. Dooku smiled with secret knowledge. He knew exactly where Skywalker would be in 3 days, the shipyards of Obadiah. He would be there, and with proper planning, they could take him alive. The dagger would be theirs, and with it, divinity itself. Ventress's yellow eyes gleamed as she asked him to continue. Dooku began outlining his plan, spreading ancient texts, showing prophecies promising goodhood to whoever possessed the blade. The Mortis gods were dead, their power unseated. The power now resided in Anakin Skywalker. All they needed was to take it. The shipyards of Obadiah hung in orbit like skeletal fingers. Anakin's task force had been sent to disrupt Separatist supply lines, a routine mission. Count Dooku's flagship dropped out of hyperspace directly above them. The trap closed. Vulture droids screamed through the debris field. It's a trap! It's a trap! I know. I saw this. Dooku comes for me here. Anakin looked up at her master. He was smiling with grim satisfaction of watching prophecy unfold. We should jump to hyperspace! But Anakin's eyes never left Dooku's ship. He took a shuttle to an abandoned platform. Dooku stood center stage, curved lightsaber ignited, Ventress flanking him. The duel was brutal. Dooku's elegant Makashi met Anakin's aggressive Gemso. Ventress circled, but Ahsoka intercepted her. Give me the dagger and I'll let you live. Anakin drew the Dagger of Mortis. Platform lights died. In darkness, the blade ignited. Pure force energy, white and crimson swirled together. Dooku's eyes widened with terror. Anakin moved like lightning. The crystalline blade buried in Dooku's chest. The Count's body unmade itself, dissolving into force ribbons spiraling into the dagger. The weapon drank his power, his knowledge. Anakin felt it all flow through him, Dooku's mastery rushing into his mind. He threw his head back and screamed. Not pain, ecstasy. Ahsoka finished disarming Ventress and turned. Her master stood over Dooku's empty robes, dagger blazing. For a moment, she saw him as something else, something vast and wrong, a being of cosmic power wearing her master's skin. Then he blinked, and it was just Anakin. But the darkness was blooming inside him. Padme's apartment was their sanctuary, but tonight, that sanctuary felt fragile. She stood by the window, one hand pressed to her stomach where their children grew. HoloNet reports called Dooku's death a victory, but Obi-Wan had sent a message. The weapon. Anakin's eyes. Something wrong. Obi-Wan says you used some ancient weapon, that you've been different since Mortis. She turned, finding the dagger in his belt. It pulsed faintly, alive. I can see futures. In some you die in childbirth, but in others you live. We grow old. We watch our children grow. Our children? You know about... He explained he'd seen them, Luke and Leia. He just needed to reach the right future instead of the dark ones where she died. Padme studied her husband. She loved him, but she was terrified. Ahsoka had described Obadiah, how he looked when he killed Dooku, like someone else wearing his face. The conversation stretched into night. Padme pleaded for him to surrender the blade. They could face the future together, but not like this. Anakin's hand moved toward the dagger. The weapon burned against his palm, sending rage through his mind. She wants you weak. What good is me living if I lose you to darkness? Anakin pulled her close, trying to anchor himself. He promised he'd find the right path, but he needed time. But the dagger pulsed with satisfaction. It knew. Time was the one thing he'd never have enough of. The visions grew stronger daily, showing the same critical moment approaching, a confrontation in the Chancellor's office. The night Palpatine revealed himself, the galaxy's fate balanced on a blade's edge. Anakin stood in the Chancellor's office. Darth Sidious, the Dark Lord, the architect of 3 years of bloodshed. Sidious no longer bothered with facades. You found the dagger. That makes you dangerous, even to me. You're afraid of it. Mace Windu burst through the door with 3 masters. The duel happened in seconds. Mace's Vapad channeled Sidious's darkness back at him. The other masters fell quietly. Sidious was too strong, but Mace held firm. Anakin stood frozen, dagger burning, showing futures. One path, strike down Mace, Padme dies. Anakin becomes Vader, encased in armor. Another path, help Mace, Padme lives, but the galaxy fractures. Third path, draw the dagger. In that vision, he sees Sidious's true form, ancient and rotting, and he sees himself crowned in light and shadow, absolute power in his hands. The choice became simple. Anakin drew the Dagger of Mortis and plunged it into Palpatine's back. The Dark Lord shrieked, but the dagger drank it all, centuries of darkness, channeling into Anakin. No! I am the Sith! I am eternal! Anakin twisted the blade. The Dark Lord unmade himself, essence spiraling into the crystalline weapon. When finished, Anakin held a blade blazing with power of 3 gods and the galaxy's most powerful Sith. Mace stared, lightsaber still ignited. You saved the Republic. But Anakin looked at the dagger. Visions came faster. Padme would die unless he took control. Only he could see all paths. Anakin walked past Mace. Tell the Council Palpatine is dead. The war is over. I'm going to save everyone, whether they want me to or not. Behind him, Mace reached for his comlink with shaking hands. The transformation didn't happen overnight. Anakin didn't announce himself Emperor. He did something far more insidious. He brought genuine peace to a desperate galaxy. With Sidious dead, Anakin negotiated ceasefire. He used every vision to predict enemy movements, force separatists to the negotiation table. Within 6 weeks, the Clone Wars ended. The galaxy exhaled in relief. He's preventing catastrophes, and the terrifying thing is, he's right. The Jedi watched in horror as Anakin accumulated power through democratic means, the dagger always at his side. Become the son he has. Control he demands instead of balance. They tried to intervene. Anakin explained calmly that he'd seen what happened if he stopped. Millions would die. Padme would die. His children would grow up in endless war. When they couldn't offer trust, Anakin left with quiet ultimatum. Watch him build a better galaxy or oppose him and be stopped. Over the next year, Anakin's influence grew absolute. He didn't wear a crown, but functioned as God King. And the worst part? The galaxy was genuinely better. Crime decreased. Hunger diminished. Padme gave birth to healthy twins, Luke and Leia. She lived, exactly as visions promised, but she looked at her husband with growing dread. Late one night, holding sleeping children, she whispered truth. You saved me, Anakin, but I've lost you anyway. He didn't argue. He'd become exactly what the father warned against. Power without wisdom. He'd killed the sun, absorbed his essence with Sidious and Dooku, and become a new sun himself. Cosmic power trapped in mortal flesh. The galaxy lived under his protection, and feared him every second. 20 years passed like water toward the sea. The galaxy knew peace under Anakin's rule, but it was a caged bird's peace, safe but never free. He controlled every aspect of existence with ease of someone seeing all possible futures. The Jedi Order fractured. Some went into hiding. Others stayed close, hoping to find the man beneath the god. Ahsoka Tano took a different path. On a forgotten moon, she underwent transformation. The dagger had absorbed the sun, Sidious, Dooku, all that darkness in Anakin. But the daughter's final gift to Ahsoka had been waiting dormant. She became the new daughter, a conduit for the light side, a counterbalance. You've ruled well, Father. The galaxy is safe, prosperous, peaceful, but imprisoned. You've created a golden cage, and we can't live in it anymore. Luke and Leia stood before their father on their 20th birthday. They'd grown up in his shadow, but they carried something he'd lost: balance. Anakin felt the dagger pulse. It showed futures where they challenged him, but also futures where they succeeded through freedom, guided by wisdom. For the first time in 2 decades, he felt genuine doubt. The confrontation that followed would be remembered as the Twilight of the Force. Not a battle of lightsabers, but of wills. The future isn't meant to be controlled, Father. It's meant to be lived. Looking at his children, Anakin remembered the Father's words. It will show you what you fear, what you desire, and it will not distinguish between the two. His fear had become his prison. As Luke and Leia's combined presence showed him what he'd become, Anakin finally let the dagger fall. The vision stopped. He felt small, human, mortal. Luke wrapped the dagger in cloth. Ahsoka explained it would be sealed on Jedha. Leia was simple. He would live, help them rebuild, not as the chosen one, but as a man making amends. The galaxy that emerged was chaotic, messy, but free. Luke and Leia established a new order honoring both light and dark. Ahsoka guided them. Anakin lived quietly on Naboo with Padme. The Force found true balance, not through one controlling destiny, but through people choosing to be better. If you enjoyed this journey into the shadows of what might have been, remember to hit that subscribe button and join us for more explorations of the infinite possibilities within that galaxy far, far away. May the Force be with you, always.